Hello. Hello, Strikers. How is everyone doing? So, this is a little different. This is the first time I've properly tried live streaming on YouTube. So, hopefully, this is working. If any of you are in the chat, if you want to let me know how are the levels, how is the smoothness of the stream, all those things. I'm still quite new to streaming. I did a bit on Twitch last year, but yeah, this is new. In any case, a quick word for those of you watching on the VOD, which I imagine will be most people who see this. This is a bit of an experiment. I promised everyone that if we hit 1,000 subscribers, I would do a Q&A stream, like a special celebration stream. And I'm still planning to do that. However, I didn't want that to be the first time I tried streaming. That seemed like a bad that seemed like a bad idea. It seemed to make more sense to just do this and just check that all the equipment is in good order. So hopefully this is coming through well. The other idea here is I am hoping that, oh, just a moment, minor technical problem. So, I'm also hoping for these RetroMag retrospectives that if I can record them live, then I think my videos have taken a lot of production, and that's great for the ASMR videos and the story videos, which you guys love, and that's wonderful. Thank you, by the way, all of you, for your wonderful comments. It's always nice to read. But I think for things like this RetroMag series, it would be nice if I can produce them a little bit faster, a bit more informally. Let's say that a bit more informally, and if I can do them live like this, and then post up the VOD, then that's great, and it means you all get more content, and that's generally a good thing. At least I think so. Just getting some things ready here in the background. just to switch over to what we're going to look at in this stream. Meanwhile, streakers, we are past the middle of the week now, and I hope all of you have been having a good week. The weather here has started to improve, which is good. It was miserable last week, and it's got a lot better, and that's great. I am looking forward to the summer, as I always am. I can't wait to spend a few days on the beach with a chilled Corona and absolutely nothing to do. Are you looking forward to summer? If you are, let me know in the chat, or if you're watching this on the VODs, I would love to know in the comments what you like about the summer. Or maybe you hate the summer. Takes all kinds. Okay. Let's move over. There's something to fix. Just a second. There we go. Just a minor camera correction. I think that's good. There we are. Okay, so before I get fully started on this, I realize that not everyone who sees this has seen my other videos, and I think probably best that I do a quick introduction. So I am a Soul Stricker. I'm Soul Stricker ASMR, and I publish furry ASMR videos of all kinds. But most recently, my story isekai stuff has been the most popular, and I will be carrying on with that in the near future. But I also do these, which are these videos where I go through old video games magazines and talk about some of the best games of yesteryear. So, if that kind of thing interests you, then please remember to like, subscribe, and we also have channel memberships. Membership is very inexpensive and it helps me afford the equipment I need to create richer stories. So thanks for joining, thanks for listening, thanks for watching if you're on the blogs, and on with the video. So, oh, hello, Wolf Sky Prime. Hello to you as well. I hope you're having a great evening or morning. I don't know what time it is there. I'm tripping over my words. I'm not used to working live. This is quite a new thing for me, so I hope you'll all enjoy going on this journey with me. It will be a bumpy ride, but I promise it'll go somewhere good. But yes, hello Wolf Sky Prime. Now, we as today's retrospective are going through CVG, Computer and Video Games magazine. So, this is the issue from July 1996, and that makes it 30 years old. The way these worked, for those who either don't remember or weren't around, the named issue actually released in the previous month, so if it says July on the cover, that means it came out in June. That was how they worked at the time. So I will have had this magazine approximately now in 1996, 30 long years ago. The time definitely, the time really does fly, believe me. But this was a great era for gaming. I mean, as you can see just from this cover, it really was marvelous. We have, let's do a quick breakdown just of this. So we have, starting at the top, E3 special. So this was the special for E3 for that year. Now, for those unaware, because E3 unfortunately does not exist anymore, and that makes me sad, honestly. E3 was always such a big event. E3 was the Entertainment Electronics Expo, and it happened every year. I believe in May, but then the magazines would cover it for the next, often 2 months, because there were so many things that were announced. There was just too much to cover in one magazine. Sometimes magazines would even do a special issue that was just for E3 that year, because there was so much stuff. Always a great time to be a gamer back then. So yes, E3 special. And as we see along the top, we have Nintendo, Sega, Sony, PC CD-ROM. That was what they called PC gaming back then. Arcade, 3DO, and Atari. So this is from an era when the 3DO and the Atari Jaguar was still, I'm going to say, relevant. Yeah, let's go with relevant. That kind of dates this a bit, but starting at the top, let's see if we can name, let's start with the images, see if we can name everything that's here. So we have Knights by Sega, Sonic Team. Mario, as he would appear in Mario 64. Then Kirby, obviously. Then this robot character. I don't know the name. We'll probably find out in the magazine. But he was from a fighting game series called Tobal. There were two games, Tobal number 1 and Tobal number 2. They were a short-lived series of fighting games by Square Enix. Well, at the time, I guess it was just Squaresoft. And they had art that was by art that was by Akira Toriyama of Dragon Ball fame. So working around the clock face here, we have Mario, Crash Bandicoot, sunglasses. Okay. This is Smarty from Virtual Cop. He was the Player 2 character from Virtual Cop. Then Pai-chan from Virtua Fighter Kids. And the dragon from Mortal Kombat. We have, I forget her name, but from the Donkey Kong Country series. Jeffrey McWild from Virtua Fighter, specifically the F3. Fei-Yen, the robot, kind of magical girl character from Virtual On, which is a Sega arena-based fighting game, one of my favorites. Then we have Candy. Candy or Honey, it depends on the region, but she was a fighter from Sega's Fighting Vipers. CVG loved the Sega fighting games. They were big fans of them, so they always feature heavily. Then Oricon, which was a logo, they're one of the teams in Wipeout. Sonic, as he would appear in Sonic 3D, and they make background to Mario. So yeah, this was a bumper issue. Some really big characters, some great games. And as you can see on the cover there, this was Britain's best-selling games mag. And that was true, you know, CVG was very popular. I had a subscription back in the day. Oh, Wolf Sky. You've never heard of E3? That's interesting. You know, I don't know when it was discontinued. I'm gonna Google that. More recently than I thought. The last E3 was in 2021, but it was a digital-only event. I'll have to look up and find out when the last proper one was. But yeah, a few years ago now. Oh, and at the bottom, you can win a Nintendo 64. Shame we're too late to enter that one. But okay, let's get moving. Okay, so double page. So the first one on the left here, people that have watched the previous RetroMag retrospectives that I've done would recognize this, but there were always these ads for Oxy. And Oxy is an acne skincare brand. They are still around today. They did well. I mean, it was always a popular brand, but they always used to advertise in these things. And then, of course, we have an introduction to the issue with Mario 64 on the right. Oh, interesting. So, yeah, the N64, yeah, that's right. The N64 had only just launched. Yeah, that was great. Contents page. I will skip over this because we're going to look at all the pages anyway, so we'll do that as we go. Editorial. What have we got here? I wonder. Quite a fun thing on the left here. Oh yeah, I remember this one. There was a lot of criticism at the time for the front cover of the Sega Saturn version of Street Fighter Alpha, which, I mean, it is awful. It's an awful piece of art, considering how amazing Capcom's art department usually is. It's a real disappointment. I believe, they haven't said this here, but I believe the reason why was, if I recall correctly, the Japanese version of the game, Ken looks extremely feminine on the Japanese cover, so they must have thought they didn't want to use that in the US, and then in the UK we probably got the same. But let's move on. Okay, we have news, and this is dominated obviously by E3 highlights. Number 1, Nintendo 64, so let's see. You will be astounded. The first opportunity you get to play either Wave Race 64, Super Mario 64, or Pilot Wings 64. Nintendo's new system is clearly distinguishable from the Saturn or PlayStation in terms of quality, starting from immediate presentation through to extraordinary gameplay. No matter how experienced, all players approach N64 like a complete innocent, unprepared for the powerful magic those 3 titles exude. Here they were excited. The N64 as well was a big deal. I remember at the time. It's hard to explain today, really, but I think the draw distance the games had that you could see so far. So in Mario 64, you didn't have a map. You just looked in the distance and you went there. And in modern video games, I think we overlook this because this is how all games work, but back then that was a real game changer, so yeah, big excitement for the N64. Hello, Chris Eden. I am reading the summer 1996 issue of CVG magazine, So settle in, and I'll keep going. A few things here. So we had the Sega Saturn Netlink. So this was the multiplayer functionality for the Saturn. I don't think this left Japan. I think it stayed there, which was a shame. I was really excited about it. I played so much. So much of the Dreamcast multiplayer when that came years later. Right, let's see. So for those who haven't seen these before, I don't go through everything because if I read everything, we would be here all day. But I generally pick one or two highlights and I focus on those. So let's talk about the on the left here we have the that black PlayStation console. So this was called the Yorose, which is Japanese, I believe, for Let's Create. And this was a consumer dev kit you could buy, and you could use it to make your own PlayStation games. It was really cool, and in real life they look awesome. They have a kind of, they were almost made of a kind of wetsuit fabric. I remember it was like neoprene, and but they were expensive. On the right here we have the Sega Saturn 3D controller. This was sold with Nights into Dreams, and this was from an era when consoles were only getting analog controllers for the first time. I mean, okay, the really old consoles like the Ataris and things, they had analog, but it was coming back, and that was the Sega Saturn's controller, which, as I said, was primarily used in Nights into Dreams. Next, Quake. Okay, Quake was a big deal at the time. I remember everyone was very excited. Obviously, for Quake in this era was the follow-up to Doom, and Doom had been huge, massive game. It's hard to put into words how big Doom and Quake were, really. I think if you have the time, Streakers, and you're interested in this era of gaming, there is a book called Masters of Doom, and great audiobook version on Audible, and I recommend listening to it. It's really good. Takes you through and gives you an appreciation for just how much of a culture shock Doom really was. It was really incredible. And then on the right, Micro Machines 3. So this was the 3D Micro Machines game for PlayStation. I remember as well. This was 8-player. You had to have 2 multi-tabs, 8 joypads, and 7 friends. But it was really fun. I think I'm just going to turn the music down just a little bit. There we go. Oh, so Wolf Sky has said that this makes them want to be born in the late 80s or early 90s to experience these games as they came out. What I would say, Wolf Sky, is gaming is great in all eras. All eras. I love modern gaming, and I guess the bright side is we can still go back and we can still play all of these games. And then we have awesome new games as well, and also the kind of throwback retro titles these days, like Mina the Hollower and those sorts of things. So, best of all worlds, really. but I won't lie, I get very nostalgic for this stuff. So the next page is Mario 64, and I was so excited for this. I mean, really, so I sold my Sega Saturn, and I waited months to buy an N64 when they became available in the UK. And oh yeah, I mean, Mario 64 is just a fantastic game. I don't need to add to this; it's not news to anyone, but so good. And of course, Pilot Wings. So Pilot Wings was a flying game by Paradigm Software, and really fun. Actually very relaxing. That's one thing that was quite cool about it. Lots of blue skies, blue oceans, calm kind of breezes. Big on the hang glider and flying through the sky and gracefully over towns and cities and beaches and things. Really fun game. Mailbag. So, for those who didn't really do magazines in this era, or again, those who are too young to remember them, they did this where you could write into the magazine and they would reply to some of the letters. Let's see, we got a fun one. Okay, this one in the middle here. Why do we bother? Dear CVG, perhaps I'm just getting older, but there seems to be more maturity with the current machines. Not so much of this. My SNES pees all over your Mega Drive stuff. I was holding out with my SNES for the N64, but got sick of waiting. I've got no problem with Nintendo waiting to get it right, and a good batch of first games. Good luck to them. Okay, so N64 will take us to another level, but it'll be over a year behind the Saturn and PlayStation. People are expecting something really special. Surely that's a recipe for an anticlimax. It's interesting, really. So many people right now in 2026. We're waiting for the Steam Frame and Steam Machine. And I guess it was always like this. The next big thing's always on the way. Everyone's always excited. Oh, I hope the Steam Frame comes soon. Okay, let's keep going. Again, the letters are really long. You'd be there all day. Okay, so the next page. Nights into Dreams. Right, I will be abundantly clear with you all here. Nights into Dreams is one of my favorite games of all time. I love this. I have bought it on, I think 4 platforms, and I still play it regularly. Such a fun game. I played it on stream, I think, last year. I think the shorts are still on the channel, and people were amused that, so the theme tune has lyrics, and I still know every single word. People thought I was joking, but no, every single one. Even after 30 years. But yeah, what a game. So, Nights into Dreams is kind of hard to explain, but it is like a score attack game. Essentially, every level you do, and it's quite easy, really. But then you get a score, and the scoring system is really impressive. And there's just so many great elements to it. And you can just play it forever, just trying to get a higher and higher score. Incredibly fun. Okay, Quake, next page. So we have more about Quake. Oh. The title for this page is Welcome to Part 4 of our regular Quake is Coming Soon really features. This time we say Quake is coming soon, really. Just drink that in. Quake was interesting, I think, because Doom is grisly and grimdark in a certain way, but it's actually a very colourful game, and Quake much less so. Quake had a kind of gothic horror, sci-fi mix feel, lots of earth tones, lots of browns. It was still a very good-looking game, but in a way more limited, but more consistent than Doom was. And in multiplayer, I mean, it was just incredible. Next we have Legend of Thor. So, Legend of Thor was the sequel to Story of Thor, which I think in America it was called like Legend of Oasis, Beyond Oasis. But these were kind of the Thor games were what happens if you get the team that made Streets of Rage and you said, right, make a Zelda game. So they're very unusual, but they're actually very fun. And they have a great anime aesthetic as well. Aquanaut's Holiday. Ah, right. So this is part of... I mean, it's not a series, but you had this lineage of games from this era that ran all the way through to the Wii of like scuba diving. And there's been a number of them where they're like very chill scuba diving games. You don't really get them anymore. I think the reason why is now that they exist in VR, that's just so much better than you would get on a console. They were great fun. They were kind of unique. Now, Jumping Flash. So, Jumping Flash was a series by Taito. I think by Taito. And they were first-person platform games, which you'd think would be really confusing, but actually they were very good. I remember really liking the first one. Really, really fun. Very unique. At the time, there were a number of companies that were trying to do the much desired 3D platform game, which was kind of perfected in this era by Mario 64, but There were many attempts beforehand to try and do it, and Jumping Flash was one of them. This, the main character, who, I don't know, were they called Flash? I think they were. But, the robot bunny that was the main character was a bit of an icon. There were toys and things. And Genso Suikoden. So this was the first of the Suikoden games, which would become a series. I've never played these, but I understand they were very good. Meanwhile... so on the right... we have here an ad for Computer Exchange. Now, those of you who have watched any of these previous videos would know that some of these ads, these are actually some of the most fun things to look at, because you can look at the prices and what was available at the time and kind of reminisce. So let's have a look. What have we got here? So for the Saturn in the middle there. So we have the Saturn machine, which was $298.99. That's £300, give or take. And this is 1996 money, so inflation calculated. That's comparable to like PS5 Pro price today. But as you can see here, the majority of games are $37.99, or like some of them are like $54.99, $61.99. It's kind of incredible, really, because in many ways the price of video games actually came down in the PlayStation 2 era. The predominant price for new games was $37.99, but that was nearly 10 years out of this. Computer Exchange are actually still around. They're called CEX now, but yeah, they're still going. Now, what do we have here? 3 titles: Scorcher, Amok, and Into the Shadows. Scorcher and Amok, I remember. Amok is probably the most interesting to talk about here, because Amok used a voxel space renderer, which was quite unique at the time. Very few games did this. Very few games ever would, actually. I think there was a game by Ubisoft, then they were called Infogrames, called Outcast, that used this kind of technology, and it allowed you to do very kind of smooth terrain on these sorts of systems, and it looked very interesting. Unfortunately, you can't really see it in those images, but if you've got a retro emulation system or something like that, check out Amok. It's very unusual. And Orion Burger. What is this? Point and click game. Iron Onion. No, it is in fact Orion Burger. I did not remember this one at all. Interesting. Okay. Then we have an ad here on the right for the official Nintendo magazine. This was published by the same house, CVG. Now, Virtual Fighter PC. So, yep, VF on the PC. So, and you see here it says that you would have Sonic CD, Baku Baku, Virtual Cop, Sega Rally, Daytona. And I think today it's almost not interesting to talk about a console game that's coming out on PC. It's not really news anyway. You kind of expect it, but back in this era, it was very unusual for a game like Virtua Fighter to come out on the PC. So, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, we have an ad here for Alliance and Leicester. They were a bank. I don't think they're still around. Tunnel B1. So, Tunnel B1 is an interesting game. It doesn't play incredibly well, but it looks amazing. I would say if you, again, if you're looking through your kind of retro emulation stuff and you want to see something on the PlayStation 1 that will just blow you away in terms of what they were doing, Tunnel B1, it's that game. It really looks incredible. I really love older games where you just look at them and you just wonder, how did you do this? You know, how did they run like this? I always think this about, this is a bit of a tangent, but whatever, it's my video. I always think about the Nintendo DS game, Tony Hawk's American Skate Lab. Skateboarding game, obviously, but the thing is, there are very few genuinely good 3D games on the DS. It wasn't a big 3D machine, right? But it just looks amazing. And it runs at a high resolution and it's 60 frames a second. And, you know, I just think that someone went to the crossroads and sold their soul to make that game run as well as it does. And Tunnel B1 is definitely one of those games. Okay, so been going for a while now, and we're only about a third of the way there. So what I'm going to do is I will skip over some pages, and I'll just stop at the stuff that seems particularly interesting. I will stop at the stuff that seems particularly interesting. Okay. Release schedule. These ones were always good. So what came out this month? We had Euro 96, Virtual Open Tennis, Waterworld for the Saturn. I don't think that ever came out. So one other thing that was fun for this, the magazines are often given these dates very far in advance, and when games got cancelled, they usually weren't told, so they would often have games listed that would just never get released. Oh, and Sega World opened this month. So, Sega World was a short-lived theme park in London, in the Trocadero, which is a shopping centre in London. And it's one of my great regrets because I was a huge Sega fan in this era, but I never got to visit, and that makes me sad. By the time I was old enough to go do it, it had long since closed. But, you know, if I ever get to travel back in time to 1995 and 96, Sega World, Trocadero. I mean, it won't be the first thing I'll do, but I'll still do it. subscriptions, and yeah, Resident Evil. This is a review, so yeah, this must have been when Resident Evil first came out. High five, so this got 5 out of 5, and deservedly so. Some video game series are interesting because when you look back at them, they take a while to get going, you know? But Resident Evil is very much not one of those. Resident Evil came out of the gate and it was just stunning. It was so fun and so scary. I wonder how well the original one plays now. Maybe not so well, I'm not sure. It is quite old. I've played it in years because of the GameCube remake, which is really good. Maybe I should. There might be one for Halloween for streaming. Who knows? So we have ads on the right here. We have Paladin Games in Gloucester and CA Games and Zone Video. So as I'm doing this live, I won't do this time, but in some of the recorded ones that I have on the channel, for these I actually looked up if some of these stores still existed, and it was surprising. Actually, quite a lot of them still do. Be nice to have that kind of job security. Duke Nukem 3D. This was good. This was fun. Kind of came out, and it was overshadowed in some ways by Quake, but it was still a really, really fun game. Wonderful weapons, really cool, kind of tools to use, and great campaign. It was just really fun. Oh, KOF 95. So, this is for the Sega Saturn version of King of Fighters 95 by SNK. The Sega Saturn got conversions of many of the, a number of the big Neo Geo games of this era. They came on a disc with a cartridge as well. I think that was to help with the load times. But yeah, they were brilliant. It was so fun. So long-time members of the channel will be aware, I have great nostalgia for the Neo Geo titles of the 90s. So Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury, King of the Monsters, Metal Slug, so many of those. The Neo Geo Pocket Color is one of my favorite consoles of all time, and yeah, great fondness for these. Track and Field for the PS1, responsible for so many broken controllers. But yeah, really good. I think in every era of gaming there are track and field type games, you know, and I think it's fair to say that this one on the PS1 was a real high watermark for this genre. I personally was more partial to Decathlete on the Saturn, but this was still a fantastic game. Gun Griffin on the Saturn. I feel like I'm going through here and just saying, oh, this was my favorite, this was my favorite, this was my favorite, but in this case, this literally was. So, Gun Griffin was a first-person mech game, kind of like Mech Warrior, like a Japanese take on Mech Warrior. And I say that because it had, obviously, mecha robot games are a whole Japanese thing, but Gun Griffin had quite a similar feel to Mech Warrior, like a very military, grounded feel. And this was for the Saturn. Great game. Had a sequel too, which was very good. I think for those who have ever played Steel Battalion, which was the Xbox game with the infamously enormous controller, there's no direct relationship between Gun Griffin and Steel Battalion, but as a player, they occupy a similar place in my memory. Darkstalkers. Okay, I'm going to skip over this because I think I talk about that a lot in one of the previous videos. Ditto for Loaded. Again, I think the last video, we talk about that quite a lot. Oh, Virtua Fighter Kids. Oh, and down here on the right, you can win a limited edition Game Gear in Virtua Fighter Kids livery. So, yeah, I may be wrong. I'll have to check, but I think that's worth a lot of money today. I think it was a very limited edition of the Game Gear. So, yeah. However, Virtua Fighter Kids, honestly, not a great game. It was kind of like Virtua Fighter 2, but like a comedy version of it. And I mean, it was cute, but VF2 is just one of the best. I mean, literally one of the best games ever. So it was a hard act to follow. So this is all the stuff from E3. We had Sonic the Fighters. This was a Sonic the Hedgehog fighting game. Honestly, not great, but... So, for a bit of context, Sonic was in a weird place on the Saturn because in all of its time on the market, there was never actually a proper Sonic game. They never got one, and we were always waiting for one as Sega fans, but they never did one. They had a few false starts and abandoned projects. One of them is on the screen here at the top left. It was called Sonic Extreme. If you're a Sonic fan, you probably already know about this, but failing that, there are plenty of YouTube retrospectives that talk about what happened to Sonic Extreme. But we waited years for this game and then it just vanished. And we didn't get a proper game from Sonic until Sonic Adventure, which was for the Dreamcast. Competition to win the ultimate gaming rig. Okay, let's see. What do you win? What do you win? Oh, you had to enter each of these separately. I always used to wonder, did anyone actually win these? You know, I always wondered if they were just kind of a bit of a scam. If you ever won anything from a magazine, let me know in the comments. I would love to know if you ever did win something. I mean, just to begin with, they're giving away a Virtual Boy. The Virtual Boy was never released in the UK, so I don't know what you were supposed to do with that. I guess it was probably multi-region. I mean, all Nintendo handhelds are, but would have been hard to get the games. Oh wow, look at this. Oh, Wolf Sky, you like Sonic the Fighters on... Okay, so Wolf Sky has just said that they played Sonic the Fighters on the Sonic Gems collection on the GameCube. Actually, fun enough, I think that was the first place I played it, Wolf Sky. I never saw the arcade version. I don't think it was ever released in the UK, or if it was, very small numbers. But I admit, I never thought it was that good. But you know, if you liked it, more power to you. You like what you like. But yeah, okay, right. So on the left here, we have this might be the most 1996 pop culture thing in this whole magazine, and that takes some doing given some of the things that we've discussed. But this is an ad for AD Vision, which was people might remember as ADV, who distributed anime on DVD. Well, at the time it would be VHS tape. The two being advertised here are Gunsmith Cats and Dragon Half. Gunsmith Cats is great. We have in the front here Raleigh Vincent, the owner of a gun range and gun shop, and her partner, Minnie Mae Hopkins, the explosives expert, and their car, the GT Shelby. Gunsmith Cats is really fun. The manga is great. I recommend the manga over the anime, really. The anime is good, don't get me wrong, but I just feel that the manga is so typical of a certain era of that kind of style. It's hard to describe, I guess, but it's great. If you ever get the chance, check it out. It's really good. And then Dragon Half is just mad. I mean, it's like a surrealist, bawdy, sometimes lewd, ecchi comedy, and it's really fun. It's really funny. Unfortunately, I think it only has 2 episodes. I think the series was cut short for some reason, but it is really good. And if you get to see it again, so typical of that era. So check that out if you get the chance. Right, so the AD Vision thing, that's, I believe, the back cover of the main magazine. Now, the way CVG worked back in the day was they had the main mag, but in the middle there was this section called Free Play, which was actually a pull-out magazine, and it was black and white and printed on yellow paper. Not always yellow. Sometimes it was pink. I think it's just whatever was cheap. But yeah, and this had very, very dense, text-heavy stuff. Yeah. I once had a letter published in this. I remember. I don't know what it was about, but it was in the magazine. In multi-format sales. Ooh, what was number 1? Ridge Racer Revolution. I mean, that was a good game. Street Fighter Alpha on the Saturn, #1 in the UK. Night Warriors in Japan, of course. Tekken 2 in Japan. Yeah. Oh, this takes me back. Alien Trilogy. That was a good game. We have cheats. So, these were cheat codes and things that skip levels and stuff. Oh, there's some stuff for Terminator Future Shock. I was just talking to someone on Blue Sky about that just earlier today. That's what a coincidence. Move list for all the characters in Night Warriors. Oh, and art. Okay. So these are just artworks by fans of the magazine. Some of these are wonderful. It was interesting too because often you had all of these by people of very different levels of skill, and some of them very talented artists, and some of them just by kids with, you know, kind of your basic art skills. But I think what mattered was, you know, they made these, and there's so much passion in them, you know. You still see it today. And to be fair, you know, people still post images on, you know, Blue Sky and things. So that's no different. But it was always great to see, and I mean, I did loads of game fan art as a kid. I'm kind of glad that none of it still exists. Tekken 2 move list. So this was the thing. Back in this era, if you were playing Tekken in the arcades, you didn't have a move list. Usually the machine would have some moves printed on the machine, but it was nowhere near enough room to print everything. As you can see, the list is huge. So the magazines used to feature these, and you know, sometimes people would have them with them at the arcade. It was kind of amazing. Just skipped a page very quickly there. Not very quickly. Yeah, I think, you know, I think for the next of these streams we might do a swear jar type thing where you guys can put coins in every time I trip over my words. I imagine from this, a lot of you will have got a fresh appreciation for just the amount of editing it takes for me to do even one of these videos. But yeah, I skipped over that previous one because that is classified ads, and those probably have people's phone numbers on them. Now, it's been 30 years, but yeah, don't call them. Don't be that guy. I mean, they probably don't work, but you never know, they might do, and I guarantee that they don't still have that PlayStation for sale. Right, so we've reached the end, and let's go back to the cover. And there we go. So that was CVG, July 1996, 30 years old. and we are going to wrap up here pretty soon. So, chat, you got a moment? If any of you, any highlights, anything stick out for you from this stuff? And meanwhile, if you're listening on the VOD, I would love to know, what did you like the most about this? Like what stuck out to you in the magazine, in the comments? I do read all the comments, and I will try and reply, because I'm always interested to know. For these RetroMag retrospectives, what do you think? When people have spoken to me on Blue Sky, things about these, generally, the most common thing I get from people is that they like things like Resident Evil, because they like to see a little bit about what people thought of those games when they were just starting out. And I admit, that is a really fun part of these, seeing, where those things came from. Also, if you have any suggestions for future magazines we could do with this, stuff of a similar age is good, I think. Anything like that, feel free to suggest. Oh, okay, so Wolfsky Prime says that they're curious about the Knights game. Okay. Well, so Nights into Dreams was made by Yuji Naka, who was the creator of Sonic, and by Sonic Team, in fact. Yuji Naka as a figure is a bit divisive these days, but he was seen as something of a creative force back in this era. But the so let's see. In the game, you played as a knight who was like the Prince of Dreams, and there were these children who would go to sleep and would meet knights at night in their dreams. And there was this whole story about trying to liberate the land of dreams, which I think was called Nightopia, if I remember rightly. But all of this is kind of accessory. The game itself was, you flew in, because knights could fly, you flew in routes around these levels, and you had to collect these things called chips, which were these orbs, and these stars, and you flew through rings and things. It's kind of hard to describe in words, but the main reason why it was fun was when you flew and you grabbed chips and rings, the succession, you got what's called a link. It was like a combo, and the higher you could get the link, the more points you would get, and it would go like link 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, with these musical tones that would kind of rise every time. And it was just an incredibly skillful game, trying to get the high scores, and you could just play it over and over and over again. And Sega were really good at this back in this era. You had Knights, and Crazy Taxi did many of the same things a few years later, and Virtual Cop actually had a score system which I think was quite similar, and they were just even at this time, they were a throwback to an era of gaming that was even earlier. The kind of early 80s, like Space Invaders, Score Attack era, and endlessly replayable. If you get into that loop of trying to beat your own scores, I mean, it is a dangerous game because you might be there for so long. I'm pretty sure I have it on Steam. I think it's available. You have to check. It might have been taken down as one of those games, I think, that kind of licensing, and it kind of appears and disappears and stuff. But if you ever see it, do get it, because it's just such a fun game. Right, this is where we will bring this to a close. In the comments, if you could let me know, I'll be putting this up on the channel, and this is live, so no editing. This is just as is. Let me know what you think. It is a bit more rough and ready than the recorded ones I've done before, but it's also a bit more immediate and a bit more off the cuff, which is different, but sometimes different is good. So let me know what you think, and I'll think about if I'm going to do this again in this way, or if we'll go back to the pre-recorded ones. But apart from that, until next time, Streakers, as always, rest